Welcome to the Pipeline and People podcast, powered by Versorix, the show where boutique firm leaders trade less admin for more advisory. Each week, we unpack the systems, stories, and strategies that help you keep your pipeline full and your people performing at their best. I'm your host, Jaden. Let's dive in. Today, I'm joined by James Lyons, founder and CEO of Lions Labs, a socially conscious tech incubator that empowers small businesses to harness emerging technologies like AI to compete in an increasingly automated economy. James, welcome. Could you kick us off with a quick look at your background?
Sure. So thanks for having me. So as you mentioned, I'm the founder, managing director of Lions Labs. So my background is actually in political science. That's what I went to school for. But that is a lot of data. A lot of people don't realize it's almost all statistics.
Yeah.
So after school, I worked at the design and strategy agency, working on surveys for big clients. I'm not going to name now, but eventually I got tired of that and decided I was going to go off on my own. And instead of helping some rich guy buy a new yacht, I would help a small business owner buy extra Christmas presents for their kids.
Very nice. So today we're going to walk through kind of why AI is becoming essential, not optional for small businesses, the hidden trade-offs of doing everything manually, what a human-centered approach to automation really looks like, and how platforms like Bliss are bridging that gap. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. What led you to start Lions Labs, and how has your vision evolved since the beginning?
Yeah, so I started Lions Labs in 2013. And so for me, part of it was that I had started doing freelance work on the side already. And I realized this feels better for me. I like being my own boss. I like kind of going out on my own, helping people more directly. Um, at the company I used to work with, I didn't really get to work directly with clients very often. So I would kind of be in the background doing all this work and I would never meet the people who were benefiting from it. So for me, it was kind of a no-brainer. And then part of it was also they had cut my hours from 5 to 3 days a week. And then that was the last straw. I was like, all right, I'm out. I'm going to go do this Lions Labs thing full time. So that was really what gave me the push to do it. And then from there, it just kind of started growing. So fortunately, some of my family members own small businesses, so they were my first clients. And then word of mouth, they kind of, someone was like, "Oh, who did your website? Who, helps you with this?" And they started directing them to me, and we started growing from there.
Very nice. You don't look like you graduated prior to 2013. Were you doing that kind of while you were in school, or?
So I graduated in 2021
Okay.
from Northeastern up in Boston, not the one, not Northwestern in Illinois. Everyone gets that confused. So I graduated at a very weird time in the middle of the pandemic. My
Yeah.
last college class was on Zoom, and I closed my laptop, and I was like, I think I just got a degree. So that was weird. So from there, I ended up no one was hiring in the middle of the pandemic, so I ended up helping some of my family, and then fortunately, about a few months later that year, I got the job at that strategy agency.
Nice. Yeah, you said you started Lions Labs in 2013, though. Did I have that
No, I'm sorry,
correct?
2023. Did I say 2013?
Ah, okay. I was gonna say you'd have to be like 40.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not. I was like 15 in 2013, I think, something like
Yeah, that's what I
that.
thought. I graduated 2022, so just a year younger.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Well, what do you see as like the biggest misconception small business owners have about AI?
Yeah, so I think the biggest misconception, and I think it's not just small business owners, I think it's all business owners right now, or most, is that AI can do everything. So I think there's a lot of people who are thinking that AI can just replace human labor. And I think that is the biggest misconception. There's AI can do a lot. It's great for helping with repetitive tasks. It's great for helping kind of aggregate data and give you insights. But what it can't do is imagine things. It doesn't have that creative spark. It doesn't have passion or drive behind it. That's what you need people for. And so I think there's a lot of businesses who don't realize that they might be hollowing out the human aspect of their company and replacing it with something that people aren't going to like.
Yeah, no, I agree. And once you use it for a while, especially like ChatGPT and Gemini and things like that, I can almost spot when text is AI, whether it's good or not.
Yep.
You can just read it and be like, yeah, that was done by AI. When you see it on like ads and LinkedIn posts, it's like, okay, I get that it helps, but I can clearly tell, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where at least as Lions Labs we seek to help our clients overcome that genericism, I guess I'll call it. So what we focus on is helping them learn how to train an AI tool, whether it's ChatGPT or our tool Bliss or whatever, Gemini, whatever they're using. We want them to be able to go in and say, okay, how do I tailor this so that it understands my business? How do I give it training files so that it can speak the language that my copywriters speak? And it kind of has that more nuanced voice that's unique to your company's persona compared to this one size fits all solution that most people are trying to use right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. And is Bliss something that you created? Can you kind of walk me through what that is?
Yeah, so Bliss, I like to clarify, Bliss is not an AI platform. So Bliss is a
Okay.
business management platform that has some AI capabilities being added to it.
Right.
And so I like to make that distinction because, as I say, AI is not going to be a one size fits all solution. So in our case, we're using the AI to help with the project manager, marketing tools, things like that. But it's a very small niche of tasks and skills that we're going to be training it on. And so when you go into Bliss, what you end up seeing is a dashboard with a project manager, cloud storage, your email, some team views, and things like that. And so you're able to sort through your tasks and your files and organize them in one place. And we're working on a couple of other features that are going to be some insight dashboards and things like that that'll allow people to connect external data sources and bring them in so that their AI agents are able to act on the information in real time from those other sources.
Got it. And could you use that in conjunction with something like Zapier or Make or N8N to kind of connect data sources? Like, what's the integration functionality like?
So that's what we're kind of thinking through right now. I think, knowing so many people use Zapier, we would probably just make an integration for it at some point. But we're hoping more so to have uh, an API, kind of direct API format where users can go in and add the API key from whatever platform they're using and sync it up that way.
Cool. What's next for My Bliss? You know, is it just that integration thing, or where do you see it evolving over the next 12 months?
So yeah, over the next 12 months, so we're actually in the middle of a pilot program right now. So we're in the process of onboarding for our pilot. And so what we want to do is we want to do at least 6 months of this pilot program with select targeted businesses, see how that goes, see what feedback they have. And then once we're done with that, we make any little tweaks based on what they say. Then we want to do more of a full launch. So that's kind of where we're at right now is this soft launch phase is what I like to call it.
Makes sense. Could you kind of walk us through, example of a client engagement just so I can get a better understanding?
Yeah, so sure. So I'll tell you about one of our clients, they're a real estate agency.
Okay.
So our engagement with them right now has involved understanding their full tech stack. So, we know, okay, they're using Google Workspace. We are able to get in to the admin side of their Google Workspace account. We know that they're using tools like realtor.com to get leads. We know they're using a couple of other traditional real estate brokerage things that help them with manage transactions and send DocuSign, things like that. So what our first step with them involved getting to understand what was missing and what our platform could deliver on first. So for us, that was organization. They don't have any kind of project manager or anything like that. So that's been a big help for them so far. And now with that insights dashboard, we're going to be working on connecting all of their existing tools so that instead of having to log into those, they'll have one access point for everything. And then a couple of the other things are just going to be, adding DocuSign features, things like that. So a couple of minor things, but really tailoring their version of it for them. So the way Bliss works is it's actually segmented by companies. So, if your company signed up, you would be able to go in, you would have an admin account and you could add your users and say, okay, they're a regular user, they're also an admin. and then you'll kind of determine what features and tools they get access to that way.
Okay, makes sense. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw on your website or some sort of page that like you don't just do Bliss, right? You do some services and stuff.
Yeah, so we call those our business innovation services. So that's actually our front and foremost service, like thing that we're doing right now. So that's what we started as, that's what we were doing. And it was through doing that, we realized this gap that a lot of our clients have. And so we figured we could fill that with this platform that we were going to build on our own.
Cool. So then, as part of your typical kind of client engagement, implementing that Bliss, in your
Yeah,
service offering.
yeah, exactly.
Um, you know, when people kind of try and do everything manually or by themselves, whether it's marketing, ops, onboarding, support, where do you notice kind of the biggest cost and the biggest growth uh, bottleneck?
I think it falls in, so I actually think it's a matter of wasted time. And what I mean by that is a lot of, especially small business owners, they're wearing 1,001 different hats. And so what they tend to do is start 1,001 different projects and then not be able to see them all through. And so that creates a lot of wasted time because if you start something and don't see it through, you spent the time, the money, the resources to do it, but then you never received your return on investment. And so what we help them do is to organize all of these ideas and projects and to have essentially the AI agent as a thought partner that's able to look at everything that you have going on, and you can kind of prompt it and say, okay, based on everything I have going on, how should I prioritize my week? And that's
Makes
not
sense.
something
I
that
think
a
my
lot of business owners, especially
Riverside
small
froze. I
business
missed
owners,
kind of the
have.
first
They
little bit
might
of that. Would you
have,
mind
a part-time
repeating it?
assistant who's
I'm sorry.
also scrambling to get everything filed, but they don't have that strategist who's there saying, well, maybe you
Yeah.
should hold this for a few months down the road and you should focus on this right now. And this will actually help this project move forward. So you should start here. They don't have that. And so I think that's where a lot of the time that gets wasted comes from. Yeah, sure. So I was saying, what they miss is the part where they start a lot of
Yeah.
projects, they don't see them through, and so they lose their return on investment there. And so for us, we offer these AI agents that are able to take a look at,
Okay. Yeah, that's
here are
very
all the
interesting.
projects and
I
all
could
the
definitely use something
tasks
like
that you
that.
have to accomplish. Here's a recommended approach to organize your week so that you can
How
actually
much is it?
make progress on these things, and it doesn't forget anything. So if 3 months down the
Oh, that's not
line,
bad.
there's this thing that you were like, oh, I'm going to pick this up 3 months from now, humans, we're going to forget. But the AI now is going to be able to be like, hey, 3 months has passed. It's time to talk about this. Or do you want me to table it for some other time?
Got it.
So they
Um,
start at 30 right now, 30 a month per user.
s-
Right now, because we're in our pilot, we're only offering the first
yeah.
tier just to kind of bring people on. And because the features that we want to offer in the higher
Okay. There
tiers
we go.
aren't fully tweaked out
Yeah.
yet,
So you talked
but we're
about
going to range from
all the
30 to
time savings
99
that
per user
Bliss
per month.
and kind of your services offer to your clients, but how do you practice what you preach? Do you use your own platform? Do you have other systems in place?
Yes, so we definitely use Bliss internally. So a little bit more about my background and how I kind of conceptualize some of this. So at that design and strategy agency I worked at, I was a brand strategy research coordinator. So what that meant was my job was basically half a strategist, half a project manager. And so I was responsible for helping program surveys, draft questionnaires, analyze data, but also responsible for ensuring that we had the right vendors and the contracts were signed for the research and that our focus groups were scheduled with locations and people and all of these things. And so figuring out how to do that took a lot of creating kind of my own self systems, if that makes sense, right? Like here's the tools I have, here's how I'm going to do this. And over time, that gave me an ability to think about project management like a strategist, And so I started looking at the team I was working on and saying, okay, here's some of the processes we have, here's how we could improve this, et cetera, et cetera. And that led me down this road of trying 1,001 different project management tools. I liked some of them, I didn't like some of them, but they all had kind of things that worked and didn't. And so after doing an audit of all of them, I had started working on websites and stuff. I was like, let me see if I can just make my own that has all the features that I like. And that led me down this path. So I had actually started doing that before even ChatGPT had dropped and the AI and everything. So at first it was just going to be project manager and marketing dashboard. I can see my data. I can see what I have to do. Here it is. That was the first version that I ever made of it. And then when ChatGPT dropped, or kind of the public version, and it blew up, and everyone was like, oh, AI, Gen AI, how can we use this? I started looking into it and I was like, well, how could I apply this to this tool here? And so that kind of led me to redefine like now we're kind of making it we want to make it a little bit more AI first, where the user is talking with their interface and the interface is moving things around for them and showing them information. So I think that was kind of the way I got here. So yeah, I'm not sure if that answered your question, but
Yeah, it does, and it's this very unique progression there. But I'm curious, coming from a political science background, like, how did you go about developing something like this? Did you hire developers? Did you just stay up late, kind of learning things?
yeah, so definitely a combination. So I got a co-founder and tech director a few months ago, or yeah, like almost a year ago now. He came on end of 2024. So he has a lot more experience with just kind of like web development, styling, making the functions all work. Whereas for me, my background, as I mentioned, I have more of a data science way of
Yep.
thinking. So now we work together where I'll kind of draft the frameworks and I'll be like, okay, here's the data we need. Here's how it needs to move through the system. Here's the prompts that need to be injected to make this process right. And he'll go and I'll kind of make the blueprint and then he'll go and do the scaffolding and everything around it to make it actually work on the website. So that's how we work now. But a lot of it was, and even today, it's a lot of just using AI to be like, teach me how to do this. Explain this to me like your intro to computer science professor. Walk me through these steps. Here's my code. What's wrong with it? So it's a lot. And that's why I say we practice what we preach. Like we are in there every day. I probably talk to my AI agent more than anyone else on my team.
Yeah, no, for sure. I completely relate. I started my career at a consulting firm doing BD and marketing. And about 18 months in, I transferred to the data team doing data viz, data management, architecture, modeling, stuff like that. I had no idea what I was doing, right? Yeah, if you ask ChatGPT the right questions, it'll definitely help you out. No, like I ramped up pretty quickly. Hey, give me this DAX formula for my Power BI dashboard, and it spits it right out. It's usually pretty good. Very helpful tool for sure. So if you can incorporate something like that into my Bliss, then you're laughing.
Yeah, and I think that's too where I feel like it's important to preach a little bit about the humanities and social sciences, especially now with AI. They're talking about, okay, it's going to replace accountants, it's going to replace software programmers, it's going to replace all of these things. I'm like, but ChatGPT can't replace a political scientist. It can't replace someone who studied literature. It can't replace people who study anthropology in these fields that require literally human feelings and emotions while you think through, like, there's a whole qualitative aspect to marketing or any social science. And so an AI can't do that. It doesn't have the ability to put in the notes, this person's emotions made our team feel a certain way. And so I think there's a depth there that people have to think about. We actually have some philosophical questions with our AI agents sometimes. And so one of the questions that I asked it once was, we have this idea of harmony for humans and AI, right? So what would that mean, or what could that look like? And so, we asked, how do you see humans and AI working together what are some of the strengths that and weaknesses of AI and strengths and weaknesses of humans. And so the AI itself spit out, this answer that was talking about how it will be great at aggregating and analyzing data, but it needs a human to understand, what's the best thing to do with that data, for example. Or is it missing a creativity aspect? It says it needs humans in terms of taste. So it's like, yeah, I could come up with ideas, but humans have taste. That's just a weird thing that humans have.
Yeah.
So there's some interesting aspects to this now where I'm like, the people who are going to be the strongest users of AI are going to be people who have a background in some kind of social science or humanities. And even at like the company I was at, I was on the data analytics team, but I was better with qual and that aspect because of my political science background, where all of my economics coworkers were all great with the quant. And so when ChatGPT dropped, and we were like, okay, let's use it to write an equation. I could get ChatGPT to write the equation because I'm a better writer. And so I was able to kind of very quickly go into depth and detail about the exact output that we want. And so, of course, the more data you give it, the better response you get. And
Yeah.
so there's all these people who are like, oh, ChatGPT is going to do my writing. But I'm like, but the better of a writer you are, the better of a document you can ask it to write for you later. And so that's
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
preach the social sciences now.
100%. And this kind of theme or topic comes up literally every episode we have where, you know, AI is not going to replace you. People that can use AI efficiently and effectively, they are the ones that are going to replace you, at least for
Yeah.
now. It can't take over completely any process or any jobs necessarily, but very simple rudimentary automation. And even then, you need someone to kind of monitor it, make sure it doesn't break, optimize things like that. So we're a long way from being replaced, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's
even
that's my
then,
take.
there's an ethics aspect of it. That was one of the
Yeah,
things that the AI had told me it would need humans for was morality and ethics. It's like I need to learn ethics from humans. And so that I was like, okay, that's good to see. The robots aren't gonna try to kill us, at least right now.
yeah, yeah. We'll see where that goes. But okay, well, we got a few minutes left here, so I
All
want to
right.
kind of segue to our final section here. It's a little rapid fire, so I have a few questions, just whatever's off the top of your head, quick 20, 30-second answer. Sound good?
All right.
Okay.
Brevity is not my strong suit, but I will do my best.
That's okay. Uh, First one. What's a myth about AI or automation that you wish would die off for good? I feel like we kind of covered
Intelligent.
this.
People think it's intelligent. It's not intelligent. I talk to my team all the time about how it's really just applied statistics. It's an advanced statistical model. Artificial intelligence is like one of the best marketing terms ever. But once you understand that it's not really intelligent, you are smarter than ChatGPT. Listeners everywhere, whoever you are smarter than ChatGPT. Um, you know, People think you could tell it can tell you anything, but if you say the sky is green, ChatGPT is going to believe that the sky is green, not blue. And so that's my biggest frustration and the myth I wish people would stop believing is that ChatGPT actually knows what it's talking about.
Yeah, 100%. It's at like
Yeah, not
very
just
advanced
ChatGPT,
pattern
AI. I
recognition.
shouldn't target them, but AI generally.
Yeah, no, I was just saying like it's very advanced pattern recognition, not intelligence. I fully agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, one simple step that any small business owner can take this week to work smarter with tech.
Can I say hire Lions Labs? Besides that, I would say familiarize yourself with at least one AI tool and learn how it works. So whether that's actually going in and starting to use it or watching a YouTube video that explains how the underlying tech works, I think understanding is the first part of using something effectively.
Yep, for sure. Uh, I know we kind of covered this, but one kind of specific lesson from your poli sci background that unexpectedly helps in your tech work today.
Yes. So I'll try to answer this as quickly as possible. But so when I was in college, I took a class called Queer Theory. and we learned about the idea of a queer OS, a queer operating system. And they talked about what that would mean and how it would be different than, the traditional operating systems we use today. I ended up adopting that concept for my senior thesis and writing about a Black operating system, but in the context of the Constitution. And so I described the Constitution as the operating system for our government. And I basically say we're trying to run a modern multicultural democracy on slaveholder OS from the 1770s, at least here in the United States. And I compare that to like the African Union or South Africa or Trinidad and Tobago, where my family's from, and I say these countries, their constitutions or what they're working towards could be considered a Black OS version of their government model. And I have since taken that Black OS concept back to tech. And now, while we work on Bliss, my team and I apply that and we think, okay, what does a system designed by and for Black people primarily, but anyone can use it. But how does that differ when most of big tech is primarily run by white people? We've seen facial recognition technology doesn't recognize darker skin tones. We've seen issues with certain cars being more likely to crash into Black people than parked trees. If anyone wants to look up that lawsuit against Tesla back in the day. So to me, that tells me there's a clear tech gap. And so that's something from my poli-sci background that I think about a lot, is how technology is being used in ways and who's designing or I should say the ways tech is designed and who designs it has a big impact on who it works for. And it's so simple as back in the day, the automatic hand dryers didn't work for darker skin tones because they were looking for a reflection, and now they use infrared because that works for everyone. And so for me, that's where the political science comes in, and why I say we're a socially conscious tech company.
Okay. Amazing. I didn't know that about the hair dryers. It's interesting.
Yeah,
Or the hand
when I
dryers.
found that out, I was like, oh, that is weird.
Yeah.
I actually noted the first time I ever noticed it. So I'm biracial, so my mom's Black, my dad's white. So one of my cousins on my mom's side, who is much darker than me, were going to dry our hands, and it worked for me, and it didn't work for him. And he was like, wait, not the hair dryer is racist. And at the time, we thought it was a joke. But then the more I went into tech and started learning about these things, the more I was like, oh, this is
It
real.
actually is.
Hair
Yeah.
dryer is racist. Or the hair dryer isn't, but the person who designed it forgot to test it on Black people.
Yeah.
And
Okay, that
so,
makes
that's a
sense.
whole other conversation. There's a great book called Unmasking AI by, I have to look up her name because I am, so it's Bualam Winnie, by Dr. Joy Bualam Winnie, called Unmasking AI. And she talks about her experience trying to design a facial recognition mirror and how she had to code wearing a white theater mask because the facial recognition technology couldn't see her. And so that
Wow.
led her down this whole path of testing all these models and realizing how, the way it's programmed affects who it can see. And she borrows from a lawyer and social scientist, Kimberly Crenshaw, her term intersectionality. And so by applying that, she's able to show how the models work worse on darker skin tones, they work worse on women, and therefore they work the worst on women of color. And so that raises very serious questions when you're using AI for criminal investigations and or job interviews and all of these other things that we're starting to use facial recognition technology for.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, James, thank you so much for joining. Where
Yeah,
can
of course.
people connect with you or learn more about Lions Labs?
So we have a rather inactive social media, but it is lionslabs.info on Instagram, and that's also our website. Again, lionslabs.info, and we're also on LinkedIn, just Lions Labs. So those would be the best places to find us right now.
Okay. Amazing. Uh, Feel free to comment with your biggest insight, and until next time. I'm Jaden Parisi. This is the Pipeline and People podcast.